Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Why AI. On this episode, we're joined by Christie Thompson. Christie is a virtual teacher and edtech enthusiast. She joins me this week to talk about AI in education from its current state to future roles it may play. I hope you guys enjoy this one just as much as I did. Thank you. So, hello, Christie. Thank you very much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm awesome. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
No problem, no worries at all. So, Christie, for our listeners slash viewers out there, can you just give a bit of background to who you are, what you do, and how you've come to do it?
So, I am a virtual teacher in Coweta County, Georgia, and I am going into my 23rd year of teaching. This will be my third year fully
Wow.
virtual. And I also adjunct at Thomas University, teaching the integration of technology into the K through 12 classroom. So, I have the opportunity not only to work with K-12 students, but also in preparing teachers to help K-12 students.
Fantastic. So, you said, just to pick up on what you just said just then, fully virtual. So, does that mean fully remote?
Actually, for the kids, yes. For me,
Okay.
no.
Right.
I
Okay.
still go. I still go into the school building daily, but they are all at home or their designated um, classroom spots. Like they
Okay.
don't come into the building with me.
They don't come into the building. Do you prefer that, or would you prefer remote? What would be your, do you like it the way it is, or is it something you'd want to take remote?
Um, I'm sorry. What do you? Because they are remote. They're
No,
not in the
sorry, I
building.
mean you being, would you, sorry, working from home, essentially. That's what I meant
Oh
to
my
say. My apologies.
I my principal's probably listening, right? Yes, absolutely love some remote work. Ms. Minard, yes. We have e-glass, and that is one of the big pulls into the building is they've gotten us some pretty cool toys to play with. So
Okay.
it's not terrible, but
No.
yeah, I mean, I have a nice setup here. It'd be
Yeah, no, it
great.
looks lovely. Yeah, yeah, for sure. So how
A
long
little
have
bit of a hybrid thing, maybe.
Yeah, a bit of both. Best of both worlds. Principal, if you're listening.
Just
um,
taking notes.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So how did you get into teaching, Chrissy? Let's start there.
Wow. Well, I was one of those people that actually went into college and still had no idea what I wanted to do. My
Yeah.
little sister actually just graduated this year, and she wanted to be an accountant from the time she was like 10 or something. And I'm
Oh,
like,
wow. Right. Okay.
what? Who wants to be an accountant? Like, whose child would want that? But she just started at a firm and is doing fantastic. But I was not that person. I had no idea. I was an undeclared major for most of college, and my professors were like, "Yeah, you're kind of finishing up your basics. You need to declare something."
Oh,
And so I actually went pre-law with a dual history English major, and then after I had finished my degree, I went back and got my master's in teaching. So
amazing.
I actually did not decide to become a teacher until I was about 22.
Right. So you kind of just sort of fell into it as you went along.
Yeah, it just kind
Mhm.
of became. I like this setup where I get to share what I know and learn from other people and just a lifelong learner. Like I
Yeah.
knew I was a lifelong learner way before I knew I was a teacher.
Okay. So you can sort of, it gives you that gives you the ability to relate to the students.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic. And obviously I've got to push it and interject it in, but in your current day-to-day life, how have you found the exposure or sort of that exposure to AI? How are you finding that yourself?
I am continuously amazed by it.
Yeah.
It I think one of the most revolutionary things to come into education since probably the written word. I mean, it's incredible. There's so much power behind it, and I just think it is going to be a driving force in education as we move forward.
Amazing. So you're very much on the positive side of the
Absolutely. I
argument.
know that there are negatives and there are concerns, and
Mm.
I think that's true with anything. There were concerns when the calculator came out.
Yeah.
It's about realizing that regardless, even if you don't feel that it's a positive thing like me, it's not going away.
No.
So
Mm.
it's definitely something that we all need to be aware of and to learn to integrate and work with.
Hmm.
But I do see it as a very positive thing for teachers
Yeah.
and for students.
Is it quite literally, are you finding it in your everyday life, in your career, in your job?
I have used it so many different ways. I've used it to create questions. I've used it to recently, I got awarded a grant for podcasting. I'm going to be podcasting with my eighth graders this
Oh,
year.
wow, fantastic.
AI helped me write my grant proposal and it was picked. So, I think
Wow.
that's a pretty, two thumbs up for AI.
Yeah, well done, AI.
And it, and I honestly think that I could have gotten to what my proposal ended up being on my own, but it saved me so much time and just
Yeah.
really streamline the process. So
Mhm.
I think it can be very powerful in
I mean,
our every.
yeah, yeah. It's the time saving aspect, especially with things obviously just for I'll talk about ChatGPT. Obviously, it's gonna come up a few times, but the even the 3.5 model, the one that's not perhaps as knowledgeable as the 4, but it's the speed in which it can create the content is unbelievable. It's so fast.
Right. And then, you just go in and you personalize it and you've saved yourself so much time.
Yeah, I think as you said, if it's used correctly, and it's teaching the prompts. So that's the thing that we're gonna have to master really, and because it's all well and good people going in to it and getting all this really quick in-depth information, but if you don't have the correct prompts, it might be in depth about the wrong thing, I guess, which is
I very much feel like the output you get is determined by your input. And I think the
yes.
sooner that we can start teaching our students prompt engineering, the better off that they're going to be as global citizens. And that is one thing that concerns me about AI is there are so many schools that are heavily restricting it. And I mean, no matter who restricts it,
Mhm.
students are going to access it on their own devices. You can't keep it away from students. It's in commercials now. It's
Yeah,
not like it's
yeah,
hidden. I mean, they're aware of it, and the only way to really appropriately address that is to teach them how to use it responsibly. Because
mhm.
if we're not guiding them on how to use it, they're going to guide themselves. And sometimes that's not, we all need guidance sometimes. And I think this is an area where students can get a lot of benefit, but need to have some good guidance behind them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I believe you were on the high tech podcast. Am I right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I've recently just had Josh and Will on here. That episode. By the time this comes out, that will be out. But they, have quite a similar sort of view to you in regards to, it should be taught correctly, if because it's there, isn't it? It's gonna be there, and there's because especially with how advanced technology already is without AI, now it's so integrated into our society in ways that the generation that I'm rambling a little bit here, but the way that the generation above us, and they don't understand us, and we're not going to understand the next, and then it's there's always going to be that forward thinking.
I, and it's amazing to me every time I go in and ask it a question and it spits out this amazing answer.
Mhm.
And I hear people say, oh, this is the worst it's ever going to be. And I'm like, it is amazing. I can't even imagine what we have to look forward to. It is to think of it now as being the worst it's ever going to be. And I'm
Mhm.
like, it can do so much. It's just phenomenal to think about where it's going to carry us.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Do you have what are your favorites? If you could give me your top three that you sort of use and that you find, most valuable to you, AI tool wise, that is.
Um, for education in particular, or just
Just what you like and what you think are the what you're most impressed by. We'll just go for that. It doesn't necessarily have to be education.
well, I mean, you got to go with the OG Chat GPT,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
of course.
I have I have looked at Bing and I've looked at you.com, and I actually really like you. It's a pretty good one.
Mm.
Um, and I've looked at Bard, but I just there's something about the OG. I love the way that it sets up free, and yeah, I'm a big fan of Chat GPT, and I think that it sort of just brought all of this to be. So it's got to be recognized, right? I mean, because AI
Absolutely.
existed long before ChatGPT came around, and but people didn't lose their minds until it
No,
came out. And I'm
until
like,
it came
well,
out. Yeah,
this isn't brand new. I mean, they totally took it to another level, but this isn't brand new.
no.
Um, so yeah, it definitely gets the original gangster award,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Um, Let's see. There's so many great ones out there. And I think that's another thing that is a little scary to teachers, is that it seems like there's about 4 or 5 new tools a day.
Yes,
And
of
there's
course.
no way to actually keep up. So what you're saying has always been my best advice. Like find a few things that you really like. Like
Mhm.
when people are, oh, you really are into AI. Did you hear about this? Did you hear? And I'm like, well, I looked at it, but I still like what this and this does. And I think that's important to find a few tools that you really feel comfortable with. And you don't have to be an expert because honestly, I don't think it's possible to be an expert in AI at this point with the speed everything moves
Yeah.
because it's it's just mind-boggling.
Mm.
So besides ChatGPT, I really like what Quizlice has done with their platform, where they've worked in ChatGPT and you can connect it to your questions. Conquer has done something similar.
Mhm.
Um, I was a little sad when I came back from ISTE and they had put it behind a paywall. I was like, oh, that's always a little sad, but it is a business model, so I definitely get that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Eduade is one that I found very helpful in my classroom. It's got a lot of really good tools that are specifically designed to for tasks that teachers do every day. So,
Okay.
and that's another thing that I really like to look for in a tool is it does more than one thing because there are so many out there. If you looked for an individual tool for every single thing, you would have hundreds of tools.
Yeah.
And I really like it when a company can sort of combine those and give teachers a sort of like a one-stop shop. And recently, I've been looking at my school AI, and it seems to have a lot of really fantastic tools. I will say it is one that I heard about at ISTE, and so I have been looking through it, and I'm excited about it. It's
Yeah.
one of those tools that I think are really helpful for teachers because it brings so many different things in there.
Mhm. Yeah, it is. It is a very, very impressive tool. I wish I could take credit for developing it, but unfortunately, that's not me. Not me, that one.
And the last site that I would recommend to teachers who wanted to explore the possibilities of AI in their classroom is CarePie. And CarePod's a platform that utilizes AI to create presentations for teachers to use from just a topic and a grade level choice that they make. Additionally, if teachers already have presentations that they use in their classroom, CarePod can purify them by using AI generators to increase student engagement. When the platform first entered into the ed tech field, it had a limit of 5 presentations on its free account. But in mid-June, they removed this limit. And even with the free account, you can create an unlimited number of presentations. So if you've never tried it, now is a great time to give it a try. Also, another thing I think is super important to point out about them, the platform has even created an AI micro-credentialing course that teachers can utilize to learn more about not only CurePod, but also more broadly about just AI in education. And I found the course to be super useful and would highly recommend it.
But yeah, that's great. I mean, just going off sort of, advising, because and I always say this, I really want this the podcast to be quite a informative thing, just for obviously not for the experts, because I'm not an expert by any means. I'm getting educated by having you people like yourself on the podcast, but just to also give some information and a bit of advice perhaps to people and teachers in particular who don't know anything about AI or know very little. What would you sort of give as advice, Christie? What would be your, a couple of key points, if you don't mind?
I would say to start with ChatGPT and
Mhm.
just go with the 3.5. I mean, I agree. The paid 4.0, it's amazing. It is beyond.
It's worth the money, by the way. I don't
Really,
put that
yeah,
out
I
there.
agree. It is worth the money. But teachers, we love the word free, because we don't get to hear it a lot in platforms, I think. So I would say if you're just starting out, certainly just start with the free version of ChatGPT and play around with it, because every teacher knows the best way to really learn something is to do it. And the more that you enter prompts and the more that you're like, oh, that's not exactly what I wanted. And so you really start to develop your prompts and you learn the best practices to get what you want. And the best way to do that is just to play around with it.
Hmm. Okay, so you heard it here first. Go ChatGPT 3.5, and it is free as well, isn't it? I think there is a lot of free, really good tools. It's just, you know, deciphering and making sure you don't sort of pick the duds, I guess. What are your thoughts as a teacher, as an educator? What's your thought process on the plagiarizing side of things? Because obviously it's a bit of a tricky question. I understand that it's a bit of a probably a difficult one to answer, purely because there's not a lot of things out there to stop it, are there? That's
Well, and what's I think most difficult about it is even the detectors that they have, they're not foolproof. Most of them actually have a much lower correct percentage of choosing AI generated than I think any teacher would like to rely on. So it
Mm.
becomes very tricky, even if even if a detector says it's AI, it's not foolproof, and it's difficult to go around accusing kids because that's going to ruin your relationship with them. So I think that what this is going to offer teachers, and I know that it's scary, and I know that a lot of teachers are not going to like hearing it, but this is a great opportunity for us to change the way that we assess. It's not necessarily going to be the 5 paragraph essay anymore, because you can type in a prompt and get a very good 5 paragraph essay. If essays are paramount to what you're doing, like an ELA, I get that. You're just going to have to tie it into more personalization. The students are going to have to connect it more to their lives. It can't just
Show
be a
more
joke.
understanding of, yeah.
But for a lot of us, especially in social studies and science, I see this working really well as alternate assessments where you are using things that aren't just an essay. When they provide you with a portfolio, when they provide you, like, I'm a huge fan of digital resources, and my students from day one, we start working on their own digital portfolios where they keep
Wow.
uh, their work. And if you are mindful of the assessments that you create, then you can have authentic assessments that really demonstrate student understanding without worrying so much about, did ChatGPT create it?
Yeah. So kind of putting the onus on the educating rather than looking at the plagiarizing as such. If
And in my opinion,
yeah.
that is going
Hmm.
to be the big thing, is to change the way we assess.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. No, but I mean, it's good, things are going to have to change, aren't they? I mean, it is in at least in some way, because the way that this is going and the speed in which things are being created, like you said, there's they're hearing about so many new tools a day. So it's to keep a grasp on it is probably the wrong way to go. In my opinion, it seems like trying to hold on and keep things the way that they are is just, there's too many uncontrollables, there's too many variables, I think, isn't there?
I agree.
Just a bit of a just to sort of finish off. We don't have a lot of time, so I just want to ask you a bit of a question that I've been wanting to ask someone. What's your most what's the weirdest slash most wonderful use case of this of AI?
Now, can this be something that I have read, or does it need to be my personal experience?
Absolutely anything. Absolutely anything. Anything you've read, because mine's going to be something that I've read. So
Okay, so my very favorite, I am a puppy mommy. Like,
okay.
my dogs are near and dear to my heart. And I read this amazing article about how, because our four-legged babies, they can't tell us what's wrong with them. They can't talk to us
You're
about it.
taking mine.
No way.
Yes.
And the vet wasn't 100% sure, because the vet is fantastic, those people are amazing,
Yeah.
but they're not able to have 24-hour access to your pet to view them. And so they put all of the symptoms and things into AI, and it generated this life-saving thing for their dog.
Amazing. Yeah, that's incredible. Wow. Yeah, it not quite the same, but similar, very similar to what I was gonna say. Imagine that'd be fantastic. I mean, it's just to sort of in a similar kind of way. Obviously, it's the way that they work is that feeding them information gives it more context, and then they can give you more answers. I'm saying they, AI. um, but there's a case in England, I believe it was in Cornwall, down so really far down south, far away from where we are. Um, and there was so much pollution in the nearby reservoir sort of thing, in the nearby lake, and they put loads of sensors in the lake, so that the aim is that it notices the timing of the pollution, so it can basically senses the patterns, and it's put all the historical data of the sensors into the whatever AI it may be, so they can foresee and stop any future pollution that comes. And obviously less pollution means a seaside village will get its economy back up and running. So that kind of when I heard it, I was like, oh, that's amazing. That's such a beautiful aspect of AI and how it can benefit, isn't it? But yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. Thank you for joining me, Christy. I really appreciate it. Do you have any signing off words that you'd like to tell the listener? If you want to say your socials or anything like that.
Oh, I am still on Twitter. I plan to go down with the ship there. I have
Yeah,
met so many amazing people through Twitter. So, I'm Ladybug Christie, but it's spelled Ladybug XIE. And I would love to expand my Twitter family there. I am also on Blue Sky, so you can find me there under Christie Cloud. And I look forward to connecting with more educators that are ready to change education.
fantastic, brilliant. Thank you, Christy. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.